Okay, Dana, so we have 24 participants with us. So if you are a go, I'll turn it over to you.
I am ready.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We are talking about Google and Canvas together. So let me make sure I have the right screen up. This is my, I'm gonna make sure I have it up. There we go. So the bit.ly is down there in the corner. My name is Dana Thompson. I'm the Director of Education Technology at Ventura County Office of Education. And I have been using Google forever, seems like. And I've been using Canvas for at least 9, maybe 10 now years. And I've been using Canvas I was an online charter school teacher, high school, and I taught their computer electives through Canvas for many years while I was lucky enough to be at home with my babies and teaching at the same time. So I did that for many years, and then when I came back, when my kids were back at school age and back on able to put them in school, I went back to school and became teacher of technology at our local high school, where I implemented Google Classroom in my lesson planning and delivery. And then just over the last few years, as Canvas has grown and the need for distance learning has grown, migrated them together. And I love both tools, and I love showing people how to really use Google and Canvas together to get the best of both worlds and to work smarter, not harder. So that's what I'm hoping to show you today. This is typically a training that I do for I'm in charge of training at the county level, many of our teachers in our districts, and this is usually a training that can go for a couple of hours. So what I show you today is a kind of an overview, but I'm going to provide you with some resources that you are more than welcome to come and access at a later date as you get in and build. But first, what I would like to know is give me a thumbs up or something in the chat to let me know if you are already using Canvas. How many of us are already using Canvas? Canvas and Google as well, but and then minimally, yeah. So this last year, I know a lot of districts, in order to try to address the distance learning and equity and getting everybody in one place. I know as a parent, and I see love Canva, which I love too, and most of my graphics are made with Canva, but please don't confuse Canva and Canvas. They're two totally separate things. So Canva is to create those buttons and banners and animated GIFs and maybe some little movies, but Canvas is our learning management system, very much like Google Classroom, but with some extra robust tools in it. So please make sure that we can work with those together as well. So some at the college level, some at K-12, and a lot of you were told, we have Canvas now and you need to use it this year in your distance learning, and but not really shown the tools on how to use it. And so that's what this session is about, is to show you how to use the best of both worlds. Because if you've been using Google for the last however many years like I was, you don't want to have to recreate everything now that you're being asked to use Canvas, and we can make them work together. So we're going to go over why using them together, and then I'm going to show you the different ways, because there are several different ways, and it just depends on how the functionality that you want, as well as how much time you want to put into it, whether you do want to use them for assignments or just use them for resources, pulling in the Google into your Canvas and all of that kind of stuff. So hopefully you'll be able to get a bunch from this session. So just a real quick why we use Canvas, or why I love Canvas and Google together. Again, like I've said, if you've been using Google or Google Classroom, and it doesn't even have to be Google Classroom that you've been using, but you've been creating all of your wonderful handouts and slide decks and forms and quizzes via forms, all in Google, and using that in your classroom, whether it's face-to-face or through distance learning. And now you want to be able to pull those into Canvas. So that Canvas is just basically that place where you tell your students to go, log into the class in Canvas, and then they can access anything that you've created via Canvas that you created in Google. So we're going to look at how to do that. So you've been using Google Classroom or Google Drive for a long time, and now your district is moving toward Canvas. And so how can we use those together? You've created a lot of resources in your Google Drive. So instead of recreating them in Canvas and doing all that copy paste and whatever, and the formatting gets all funky, we're just going to embed things from Google right into Canvas so that your students can access them. And you want to use your Google resources among different Canvas courses. So this is one of the powerful tools of using them together. Is we all know that your Canvas course is basically your 4 walls of your classroom. So if you think of it as a 6-period day, each period has their own course in Canvas, their own course card on the dashboard. When they click on that course card, they go into that course where only the students that are enrolled in that course have access to the information in that course. But what if you want to do something that's collaborative between period 1 and period 2, where you want those students to access the same collaborative document so that they can research together or collaborate together? And you can't do that via Canvas because it's sectioned. It's meant for security purposes to keep those classes separate. But if you pull in a Google form, and maybe it's a sign-up sheet or a field trip resource form, or if you pull in your Google slide deck that you created that you don't want to have to recreate for every class, or you pull in a Google collaborative document or a Google collaborative slide deck where your students can actually access and edit it, and you can have students from period 1 and period 2 accessing the same document via Google, where you cannot do that via Canvas. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. And then there are some really robust analytic tools that you can use when you start having those conversations with your parents about, they say that their child has been accessing the course and doing the work, but it's not showing. And you can pull up those analytics that dig down to the second that they logged in and what pages they accessed and when they turned something in, and if they turned something in but it was blank and it didn't have the comments that you gave back. You can show all of that documentation in your parent conferences or in your administrator conferences to show what actually is happening through those computer analytics. And so with all of these tools together, it's just a win-win situation to use them together and to utilize the best of both worlds. And my favorite part of embedding Canvas resources, whether it's slide decks or Google Docs or spreadsheets or forms or whatever you're using, when you embed them in Canvas, Canvas automatically puts that previous and next button, which I'll show you, so that you can have your students working through your lessons in a sequential manner, and they don't have to all be at the same time. They can be independent. It can be, at home or asynchronously. But it allows them to know, what am I doing next, without having to go back to the Canvas Google feed to figure out what the next assignment is. It just progressively works them through your lesson or your module in a sequential manner. So it keeps them on task and it keeps them in Canvas instead of having them go out and get lost on the World Wide Web. So that's one of my favorite, very simple tools that Canvas provides. And so when we're working with Canvas and Google together, really what we're doing is we're using Canvas as that face, that front, and you're going to embed your Google items into Canvas. And you can do that anywhere you have the RCE, which means Rich Content Editor. And that RCE is basically, if you think about opening up a Google Doc or a Google slide deck where you have the content editor bar at the top, where you have your insert menu and your format menu, and you can put in videos, you can put in bullets and numbering, you can change your color. All of those design tools that you have anywhere you have this rich content editor, that is provided in Canvas anywhere you have that, which would be on a page, a discussion, an assignment, an announcement in the and then the students have access to that as well. So when you get to the point where you're having them use Canvas to submit their assignments, they have that rich content editor. So they can record a video of their reflection of the assignment, or they can record their video, a screencast of something they've created, or they can format their entry right in Canvas using that rich content editor. So anywhere that RCE is, you have the ability to embed Google items as well as make the visual content stand out. So that's where you will add information. So if you have a hyperdoc, don't redo the hyperdoc. Don't try to figure out how to make it work in Canvas. just take that hyperdoc and through the RCE, embed it into Canvas so that your students can see it, have access to it, even write on it within Canvas. And that way you're just, connecting the two so that their Canvas is basically your showboat and Google is where you have all of your resources, and then you're making them work together. So it's really helpful to have the ability to put instructions to sandwich that hyperdoc or that slide deck so that students, if they're absent or if they want to go home and review it again because they were pulled out during the day or whatever the case may be, they don't need to have you there to tell them the instructions. You can embed those instructions in your Canvas page and then put the Google hyperdoc or slide deck or form so that they can do the work and then be successful and not be held up. So you're encouraging their learning outside of the four walls of your classroom and giving them as much context as they need to be successful with your assignments. And so if you look at my two, and we're going to get in and see this in real time, but there are two ways to embed embed Google items in your Canvas courses, and it again is the functionality. Do you want to make sure that your students are logged into their Google account to connect so that they have to authorize or authenticate, or do you just want to provide them with the resource so whether they're logged into their Google Drive or not, it doesn't matter, you just want them to be able to view the slide deck. So there are two different ways, and so I'll show you how to decipher between the two of those. The difference, again, is the view. So whether they will just see your resources or will they be required to log in as well so that the Google via Canvas knows that they are part of your district Google account. And that way that they have access to it and you can still keep that privacy so it's not just open to anybody. And Canvas provides that quick access to the slide deck so that you don't have to, you can just tell them, go into Canvas and go to today's module or today's lesson, and the slide deck is right there. You don't have to try and figure out how to get the link to them so that they can open it up, and it's after hours and it's 8 o'clock at night and they're reviewing and the link is right there. They don't have to try and figure out, do I go in my email and find it? Is it, everything is in Canvas. So your feedback to them is, go take a look at our Canvas course, go take a look at today's Canvas assignment. And again, like I said earlier, it provides those next and previous buttons when you're embedding them in modules to help guide them through. So here's a screenshot, which I'm going to show you in real time as well, the external URL versus the external tool. So for those of you who have been in Canvas and you are trying to use your Google items in Canvas and you're trying to go through, the external tool or the external URL, what do I do? It's just basically how the students will view it and access it. So if you do it as an external URL, then you need to make sure that you have your share settings set so that anybody with the link or anybody within your district with the link can view it or can edit it, whatever you want them to do with the Google item. When you do it as the tool, then Google and Canvas talk to each other to set up those permissions. So if it's something where you're embedding it in a module so that they can review the PowerPoint or the slide deck before they do the assignment, then Canvas and Google will work together to set those permissions to anyone with the link can view it as long as they're accessing it through your Canvas page. But if it's an assignment where you want the students to get their own copy, then Canvas and Google will work together. They'll talk to each other so that those permission settings are set as well. So it's really that functionality and what you want to do with the document or the slide deck that you're sharing with them. Here are the differences between that there are also, and if you've been using Canvas and Google for at least the last year, you know that there are two different integrations. So LTI, you'll hear that a lot when you're working with Canvas. LTI stands for Learning Tool Integration. And that can be Google, it can be Nearpod, it can be Pear Deck, it can be YouTube, it can be your publisher, Glencoe Wilcox or whatever publishing company. They will have these integrations where their tool, their learning tool, third party, will integrate with Canvas to make that experience for the students as seamless as possible and provide them the access to their tools within Canvas to keep them in Canvas so that they're not out trying to find this and find that and spending so much time trying to find where they're supposed to be that they're not listening to the lesson or they're not working through it in a timely fashion. So these learning tool integrations are super helpful when you're working with Canvas. And so With Google LTI, the old one was called the Google Apps or Google Cloud LTI, and that was prior to Google taking ownership of this integration. It was Canvas. And so with that, and that is currently accessible within Canvas, but they are phasing it out. And the original date was September, like 2 months away, that they were going to phase out the Google Apps LTI and only work with the Google Assignments LTI, which is a Google-owned LTI. They have now pushed that back. So those of you who have been using this one in the yellow, you have a few, I'm not sure when, but you do have some more time before they phase this one out. But you do have access to both of them. So when would you use them? And I'm going to show you some examples of when you would use that. So with the Google, the older one, referred to as Google Cloud, anyone with a Google account can use this LTI. So if your school doesn't have a Google Workspace, I believe it's called now, for education, you and your students can create a personal Google, which is not the optimum because then we don't have control over data security and all of that, but it is possible. So anyone with a Google account can connect that to their Canvas account and use this LTI. It does make the documents, the slide decks, whatever, editable in Canvas and in your Google Drive. And you can use those in collaborations, which is a tool in Canvas to have students work in small groups. The assignments, and this is the big difference, the assignments in the Google Apps Cloud LTI, you grade in Speedgrader just like you would grade anything else. So if you've been using Canvas and you're familiar with Speedgrader, that's where you would grade those assignments. And basically what happens is the student creates the assignment in Google, and as soon as they submit the assignment in Canvas, it submits a copy of that assignment so that you can grade it in Speedgrader and provide feedback and attach a rubric to it and those kinds of things. And then, but it keeps them as separate documents so the student can still work on the document in Google, but you won't get the updated document until they resubmit it in Canvas, but you grade it in Speedgrader. So the difference, if you look at the blue, with the Google Assignments LTI, your district or your school must have the Google for Education workspace. And that, and if you don't, then these two don't work together as far as the integrating it so that it's similar to Google Classroom. You can still use the Google Apps, but you won't be able to do that, make a copy for each student. There are other workarounds for that, but just keep that in mind. And the files for you and your students are only editable when you're in Google Drive. So it connects them, but then when you're actually making changes or edits, you're opening it up in Google Drive and making the changes there, and then it will automatically reflect in Canvas because they're connected. But you do the editing in Google. And in this case, assignments are graded in Google Assignments. So if you've been using Google Classroom, it's going to be great for you because it looks exactly like Google Classroom. You're just accessing everything through Canvas. So just think of Canvas as that portal to connect you to your Google Drive, but everything else operates the same as if you were in Google Classroom. And you can do rubrics in Google Assignments. You can put rubrics in Canvas. You would do that before attaching the assignment, but sometimes those rubrics, because they can attach to the assignments in Google Assignments, are better off attached there. You're previewing works prior to submission, so you can see it in real time. And so that's another difference between the Google Assignment LTI and the Google Cloud. In Google Cloud, you just see what the student submits. You can provide feedback, but if they're making changes, you're not going to see that until they resubmit. In Google Assignments, you can access just like you can in Google Classroom, access the student's assignment and see where they are in real time. So if you like to do that and go in and provide feedback before they actually submit, then Google Assignments is the way to go because it works just like the Google Classroom. Both of them, looking at the green, you can access and embed anywhere you have the RCE. So again, that's you and your students. So when they're submitting things, they have access to that RCE, that rich content editor, so that they can use that integration, that LTI also. You can embed them in modules, both through the external tool or through the external URL. Students can receive a copy in both instances. Again, it's just whether you want to see their finished product and their resubmitted product, or if you want to be able to see them in real time, which one you would use. And neither of them can be used in groups or peer editing yet, but I think that's going to change. I think that has to change because we want to do so much more with peer editing and students working in groups, and so they're working on that. Here, the slide deck, and I will put the link in. The link is actually on the SCED page, so you can always grab it from there. But these are just some resources out that will help you as you're working through this. So these are Canvas community resources, the Canvas guides and the Canvas community. And these are resources that Google has posted. And then this is a helpful comparison chart that Canvas has put together and Structure has put together so that you can see the differences and whether it's coming. And so this is just for your information only. Speedgrader will work, and I'll show you how. Speedgrader in Google Cloud, you grade in Speedgrader. In Google Assignments, the score will pass back. So in Speedgrader, you can see the score, but you can't. But you will actually access the students' assignments through the assignment page to grade them. But it will pass back the score, so you don't have to worry about that, and it will connect to the SIS, the score, when you're doing that. Yeah. But I do think that's changing too. I think that's one of the updates because so many people are really wanting to be able to access it in Speedgrader. So I foresee in the next year that will be one of their changes. So one of the things that I've created is a Canvas course where I show you how I implement Google in it. So if you're on the slide deck, you can view the public Canvas course with this link. If you actually want to enroll as a student so you can experience it as a student, then you would enroll through our online catalog. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the Canvas course. I'm in here as a teacher. So if you're new to Canvas, the teacher view and the student view is a little bit different. I do have a test student in here. So if you see the blue, that means I'm looking at it from the student's point of view, and you can see that I have a lot less navigation here. So I've customized the navigation so that they don't have to see the things that they don't need, and it doesn't confuse them. They only have access to modules in Google Drive. The students have a reminder over here of their to-do or any recent feedback that I've given them. But as the teacher, so now you're looking at the pink one, so that's the teacher one. These are all of the settings that I can customize. And so I have my fun little home page. It's just, so that they know where to go. And then I've got some buttons where, we're going to start here with using Google with no LTI. And so this is great because this is with no LTI means that you're just using Canvas to display your Google resources and provide access to your Google resources. You're not asking the students to complete assignments. So the LTI you implement when you start wanting students to get their own copy and do the assignments and all of that. So I'm not going to go through this in detail because you do have access to it, but I do just want to kind of talk you through it. So this is a module, and as a teacher, I'm going to collapse all my modules, and you can see that I have a module for each of my subjects. So however you decide to organize your modules, the beauty of modules is I can come in here to this no LTI module, and I can start on this intro page right here where it's giving instructions to my students. You can see as the teacher, I can see that it's published. So if it's published, my students can see it. But if I don't want them to see it yet, I can unpublish it. So even with your Google slide deck, you want them to be able to have access to it, but not until class starts, because you don't want them getting in there early and trying to work through it without context and all of that. You can keep it unpublished until you're ready for them to see it. So that's one way that Canvas will help control access to your Google items. So it just it's one more point of control that you have. And then you can see that I've provided instructions, screenshots. This is all for you as you're going through here, how to get to the rich content editor and insert. And then here's my Google item. So they have access, this is the slide deck that I was just showing you, and they have access right here inside Canvas to go through this slide deck and not have to leave and get lost somewhere else and wait, what was that link again? And they're not listening to you instruct because they're trying to find the link from somebody else. That happened to me in a session yesterday. I came in a little bit late, and so I missed because I was trying to find the link to the slide deck, where you can tell your students it's right in here. Just go into Canvas, it's right there. You don't need the link. And so this is just embedded. This is not through the external tool or external URL. And as the student, so if I flip over here to my student view and I come into that module, you can see I don't have all of those extra buttons or published or whatever. I just have access to the information. And so I can come in here and I can't edit this page, but I can definitely come and read through all of the items and access the slide deck. And the other nice thing, if you haven't looked at it, Pages and Canvas have integrated this immersive reader. So for your students who need to have it read to them, when they click on the immersive reader, it will pull it in and they can play, and it will read the text to them. It strips all of the images out so that that's not in the way. And then they also have the ability to customize what it looks like, check the grammar and all of that kind of stuff. So this immersive reader, which is a totally different session, is available on any Canvas page for those students that need that assistive technology. So as a student, I can come through and read the instructions, navigate through the slide deck, and then I have resources if I want to click, link out to this resource to find out more information, and then I have this next button. So I know what next is. So I can come in here, and here's an example of that slide deck embedded as a module item, not in a page. So you can see I don't have any context around it. There are no instructions that help the students understand why am I looking at this page, right? So that's why I like embedding them in a page. And when you embed it as in your module as an external URL, it gives them access to the slide deck with the edit view. So I can't edit this as my, well, maybe I can because I have it as anyone with the link can edit, but that is based on those share settings. So if I look at the same page from my teacher view, again, I can just click next to get to it. You can see it's the same view, right? Because all I did is I went into my modules and embedded the link. And this link, this is meant to be an activity that my students do together. And so it's kind of small here. So you just train your students to click on the title of the slide deck and it pulls them out into Google Drive. And this is the slide, the thin slide EDU protocol. If you don't know it, it's great. It's great for review or, like a pre-activity. And so I have this slide deck here where anyone with a link can edit. That gets kind of dicey, but I came up here to the share and note, because we're all in different Google domains, I have it so that anyone with the link can edit. You might want to do it so that anyone in your Google domain can edit, so you're not just getting random people out there. But now my students have the ability to come into my Google deck just by going through Canvas and accessing it from there. And they can come in here and look at the instructions, find a slide, pick a slide, any slide, make sure nobody else is on that slide. Give me one image and one word about how you're feeling today, or whatever the case may be. And so here's an example. Greg chose this slide and his word was creativity, and he found this Google image. And then this next slide, Erica found, and these were from a PD that I did with my teachers last year, where she, found this fear of technology is strong, and so they can come in and have fun, but they're assessing their learning and trying to figure out how they feel about it, but this is a Google activity, and all I did was embed it in my Canvas module so that they have access to it. So that's this one right here. And then this next one, this one here is an external URL. So basically what happened was I took this share link. So I'm opening this up again, and I took this share link, and my computer's going a little slow, sorry. And I'm going to copy this link, and that's what I'm going to paste as my external URL in my module. The other option is to embed your slide into the module as an external LTI, an external tool. And you can see that the difference is the view and the way the students access it. So again, you saw that authentication screen pop up. So when you use the external tool, your students have to be logged into Google and to Canvas. And if they're not, they'll get a button that just says log in. So they can do that right here in this window. But you can see I don't have the slide preview on the side, and I'm just looking through it. So this works very much like embedding it in a page where you're just seeing the slide deck. And so if I wanted them to actually work on it, they would have to come down here to the Google Slides to open it up in Google Slides and work on it. But that's just a different view and functionality. So if I come back here to modules, you can see, even though those previous and next buttons were there, those were the three that I showed here. So embedding your slides in a page, I'm going to show you how to do that. Actually, if you even just come into this page, the screenshots are all there. And on slide deck, to get it to look nice, the key is to make your slide deck public. It doesn't mean that it's out there on the, I mean, it is out there on the World Wide Web, but really you just take that embed code and embed it. So anytime you have an embed code, you can use it in your pages, in your rich content editor. So that's this publish to web under the file menu. And I've already published mine to the web. You can see here, if you don't, you would see a yellow publish button. And the key is to find this embed code. And I don't even have to know what it means. I don't need to know HTML to know that this is HTML language, it's coding. But I can click in here so it's all selected and then hold my Control and C or my Command C to copy it. And then come back into Canvas to use that embed tool, which is this one right here, from your insert menu to embed it in a page. And it embeds it right in the page, so it just looks seamless. You can do that with, modules. I want to come back to modules. So that embed code works with slides, it works with docs, it works with forms. So all of those items are using that embed code or the external tool or external URL. And again, for sake of time, if you're interested in how to do that, you can come into this course, it's public, and you can look at the screenshots and the instructions and it'll walk you through it. So how do you embed a Google Doc? So again, it asked me to log in. I'm already logged in, so it's just authenticating to make sure. And here is the course evaluation checklist that Canvas has put together, which is awesome. If you don't have this yet, get it. It helps you go through and just make sure that you've got everything that you need to make your course just spectacular for your students. But it's an embedded Google Doc, and this is actually a Google Doc from Canvas. And so, you know, you can embed that as long as you have access to it, you can embed that. Kathy, I'll put the link in just a minute. Yeah, it's on the Sched page. If you take a look at the Sched page, here's the session presentation, and here's the access to that this course that I'm working through right now. Yeah.
I'll go ahead and put both links in there for you. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you. If you are willing to get into the HTML, you can even make it. Notice the difference. This one's got kind of like this border around it. They can see the tools, even though it's view only, so it can be kind of confusing. But if you want to get in and mess with the HTML, I put that here. If you don't want to mess with the HTML, ignore this part, but you can see that it cleans it up just a little bit. So there are some tips and tricks because Canvas is basically a website editor with a lot of functionality. So you can get in and customize the web, the HTML, to make it look the way you want. But this is embedded in a page, and then I showed you another example of it embedded as an external URL in a module, and then embedded as an external LTI in a module. So I'm just clicking next, and you can see, again, with the LTI, it wants to make sure that you actually have your Google and your Canvas connected, but just a little bit different functionality, but accessing the documents the same. And up until now, this has all been resource. This has all been providing a Word doc or a HyperDoc or a slide deck or a form to your students through Canvas modules, and they have that previous and next button so they know exactly where to go to. They're not getting lost, right? Here's Google Forms, and I do want to touch a little bit on this because Google Forms is very powerful for very many reasons. So again, this first page shows you how to embed it, where you're going to get that embed code. Anytime you see the 2 carets like this, that means embed. YouTube has it, Nearpod has it, Pear Deck has it. All of these embed codes you can embed right in the HTML editor by placing it in that little box. And then here's the form of an exit ticket. So you spend all your class period working with the kids, and instead of taking the last 10 minutes for them to do this exit ticket live in your classroom, you can work with them on the activities up until the bell rings, and then have them go home and access the exit ticket in Canvas and complete the exit ticket in Canvas as homework or something like that. And then you have access to it and timestamps and all of that. But this is an exit ticket form. And this is actually one that you can do for me. This is a session evaluation, but you know, you can come in here and just embed this form in here, put the pictures within the form, and then when they notice that they're filling this out in Canvas. But what's really happening is the information is being put into the Google form, and then I'm going to access the data in that Google form in my Google Drive. But the students never have to leave Canvas. So they complete the exit ticket, and then if they're done, they can be done, or if there's a next, they can click on next to go to the next item. So whether it's an exit ticket, or I put a link up here at the top here, you know, an escape room, which is kind of fun, or a branching quiz, getting into using forms in you know, a more advanced way. But you can embed your form in the page, just like I have here, or you can embed the form in the module, which means that there's no context. Again, same as I showed you before. There's no ability to put instructions ahead and up front so that they know why they're filling out this form. It's just a link to the form. So this is as an external URL. And one of the biggest tricks is if it doesn't load here, if they get the broken image, just click on the title, and that takes them out of Canvas and into Google. And so sometimes based on their system, they may not be able to access it, and so it'll look like it's broken. Just train them to click on the title, and you can see that this is a Google form that I have in my Google Drive. It's just embedded in Canvas in this view as an external URL. And it has the area around it. I can also use it as a Canvas quiz. Now the key with forms is they don't connect yet, even through Google Assignments. And so as a use case that I would do, I would put it in a Canvas assignment, put in the instructions, embed the form, and then I would have to take the grades from Google and manually put them in via Speedgrader for when you're using Google Forms as a quiz. So if you'd rather use Google Forms as the quiz instead of using the Canvas quiz, you can do that. You just have to manually put the scores into Speedgrader or into your gradebook. But sometimes it's better as a Google form, because for like this example, and I'll let you try it when you access the course, this is a branching one. So based on their answer here, they're going to go and be taken to another question. You can't do that in Canvas quizzes yet. They're probably going to change that too. But if you want the branching quiz, then embed it into Canvas, create it in Google Forms, embed it into Canvas. And then for me, manually putting the grades into my gradebook far outweighs not having that branching capability, because that is available in Google Forms. And again, I'm not recreating anything. I'm not having to take this Google quiz, this Google Forms quiz, and recreate it into a Canvas quiz, unless I want to, but I don't have to. So the other things that I wanted to give you access to, which again, for sake of time, this really is a 2 to 3 hour training when I do it and have my teachers do it with me, is this force a copy. And I know you've seen that in these conferences where, you know, they're saying, here's a link to my presentation. And when you click on it, it gives you this window that says, you know, if you really want to have this, make your own copy. So this force a copy is great because your original stays intact and untouched. And then whoever wants a copy of it, they make that copy, and it has to have somewhere to go. So you need to make sure that your students are logged into their Canvas, because then it will make a copy of this presentation in their Google Drive, totally separate, so they can mess it up all they want and it won't touch your original. So if you don't have the LTI, the integration working with assignments, but you still want students to have their own copy, and you don't have to want to create that separate copy for all 50 of your students, do this force copy trick. And basically, what you're going to do, here is the URL for that document, right? The gray is what you're going to keep, the red is what you're going to get rid of, and you're going to change this word edit and make it say copy. The key to that, I'm going to come back to, because that's this document here, and let me get out of my publish to web, move all of these things out of the way. You're using this link up here, not this share link. Okay, so this link won't let you force the copy, and that's that when people say, I can't get it to work, you need to make sure you're using this link. So I'm going to come up here to the first page of my presentation, and you can see this part right here at the end of the address, after that last backslash, that's what I'm going to get rid of and type in the word copy instead. Now when I hit enter, you're going to see it's going to ask me, do you want to make a copy of this? Yes, I do. So I'm going to make a copy, and it will put a copy of that presentation into my slide deck. So when I'm doing this For my students, what I do is if this is what I want them to have access to make a copy for their own drive, so whether it's a template or a hyperdoc or something that I want them to have their own copy and I don't want to do the integration, I will copy this address and then I'll come into Canvas and I'll paste it and I'll delete this end part and I'll replace it with just the simple word copy. And now that functionality is working. So whether you embed it into a page or you do it as an external URL in the module. So I'm going to come back to modules. And so this force copy trick, the easiest way to do that is if I come up to this module where I want this document to be and I add an external URL, and I'm going to paste that website address, but get rid of everything before that last backslash, and type in the word copy. The slides. And I can have it load in Canvas or I can have it load in Google. If I want it to load in Google so they have more workspace, I'm going to check that box and add that item. And make sure that it's published, because see, it's not published right now. So if I come in here in my student view, so again, remember in my student view, I'm looking at the blue Google or the blue web. I don't see that down here. It's not in this module. So as the teacher, I have to publish that, come back in as my student, and now when I refresh my screen, there it is right there. So you can control the access. And now as a student, because my teacher put it as to open in a new window, I'm going to click on it and it opens up in a new window, but look, it's making them sign in because they have to have a place to save it in Google. So back in the teacher view, so those are all tricks where you're not really using the LTI where Canvas and Google are talking to each other to create copies for the students. You're doing everything, embedding resources, embedding links for them, putting it in order so that they have those previous and next buttons and all of that. The Google Apps LTI, this is where I go over the Google Cloud, and I said depreciating in September, but I checked yesterday in the release notes and they have pushed it back, so you still have some time. But this is how you can implement the Google Apps, and these instructions are on how you can implement the Google assignments. And let me show you the difference between as a student, because that's really where it matters, because it's the functionality with the students. So I'm looking at my student view. And here's a Google Cloud assignment, and here's that Google Assignments 1.3. So this is the one that will eventually be depreciated. This is the one that they're replacing it with. Google Cloud is a Canvas tool. Google Assignments is a Google tool. So if you're having issues with Google Assignments and you put in a help ticket with Canvas, chances are they're going to tell you to contact Google, because Google owns this tool, this LTI. So if there's something funky going on, it's going to be Google that needs to fix it. Just so you know. They're not trying to pass it off. They just don't have the ability. Canvas doesn't have the ability to make some of the fixes because it's a Google tool. Google owns it. But again, for you, this is your view. You have the instructions, screenshots on what you're going to do, what you're going to see, how you're going to access your files. So everything is here, even though I'm not able to, for sake of time, be able to go through it. But you have all of this here. And then just so if you enroll in the course, then you'll have access to this Google Cloud assignment. So as a student, this student does not have my Google Workspace for Education email account. This is just a test account that I created with a personal Gmail. So you can see as through the personal Gmail, I have access to this goal setting activity. I'm logged in as me, as the student, and I can come in here and I can edit this because my teacher has given that functionality through the Google Cloud. So again, I have instructions on the Canvas page, and then Canvas embeds this goal setting activity within my page, and it's kind of hard, right? So I can click on this because the screen is not very big. I can click on the name of the assignment to open it up in Google, and I can come in here and put my name. I can put my answer, And then when I'm done, you can see over here, I don't have that submit button. So you just have to train your students. Once you're done, come back to Canvas and submit using the submit button. And so it gives me when I submitted it, the timestamp, everything. So as a student, I can check and make sure it's submitted. And as the teacher, I'm going to flip back to the teacher view, I can come into that same Google Cloud assignment. Here's where I could edit it if I wanted to. You can see that I see the same view that the students do, and I'm going to come into Speedgrader to grade my assignments. So here it is, July 15th at 10:14. Dana turned it in. Here's her assignment, and it's a copy. Okay, this is a copy of it. So if Dana's working on it right now, I'm not going to see that. So the difference between that one, because you grade it through Speedgrader, and again, eventually this will be depreciated, the Google Assignments 1.3 LTI, again, I put in instructions for you so that you can go through it. But when I come in here as a teacher to set up an assignment with the Google Assignments LTI, again, I can put in links, instructions, videos, and then here's the assignment. And it's looking like it's a little funky, but it looks just like Google Classroom. So those of you who are used to Google Classroom, it's going to be very easy for you to figure out how to do this. But you can see that I have the Google Classroom information. I can get to the assignments by clicking on the link, and it will open it up in Google. Again, it looks just like Google Classroom, right? So you have your points, which you want to match with Canvas. You can attach a rubric here. And then as your students open it and generate their copy, so when they click on the link, it generates a copy for them, you will see them. So that's one difference between Canvas and Google Classroom. With Google Classroom, you see all of your students, right? But with Canvas, this list will be populated as your students click on the assignment and open up their own copy. So once their copy is made for them via Canvas and Google, then you will see their names populate this list. And so if I wanted to go in and see how Dana was doing, I would click on her link here. This opens up her document. So this is her file that was created through the LTI. She's working on it. I, again, just like in Google Classroom, can come over here and give grades. I can give feedback. I can return just hers. I already returned it. Or I can come here if I had more students in my class and drop down and work through the rest of my students. I can also navigate through. So you're doing the grading here, not in Google, not in Canvas Speedgrader. So that's the biggest difference and that you need to remember. But if you're used to Google Classroom, this is going to be a no-brainer. And then when you as the teacher want to see how your students are doing, instead of going to Speedgrader, you would actually come to the assignment itself. So whether you come through assignments or whether you access the assignment through your grades tab or through your to-do list, this is where you're going to come in and see who's turned it in, who's still working on it, those kinds of things. Your students, so I'm going to click next. Here are the instructions, right? And then when I click next to open up the assignment that my teacher wants me to work on, what I see, again, are the instructions, the video I'm supposed to watch, and then my assignment. So I came in yesterday and completed this assignment. So I can open it up from here, but I can see my teacher's feedback here. I'm not going to open up. So the key, let me come back home. When your students click on the To-Do tab, it takes them into the assignment details. They want to come into modules. And if they want to see your grade and your feedback, they're going to open up the assignment from modules, not from the to-do list. They can see the score from the to-do list, but if they want to see your feedback, they need to actually be looking at this screen here. And then they can see their grade, they can see their feedback, they can open it up here to see anything in here. Again, it's going to just open up their slide deck so that they can go through and continue working on it or whatever the case may be. And I'm looking at the time and I have about 2 minutes. Again, it's a lot of information, but everything is in here. So whether you're just using it to provide access or you're using it to provide assignment distribution, templates, those kinds of things, that's these first 2 modules. This module here, these are different resources than are on the slide deck. So these are different screencast videos that I put together. that show you everything that I just showed you, but in a visual format. So again, that UDL, you can either read it with screenshots, or you can come in here and there's no sound, it's just screencast. So if you want to learn how to set it up, you can watch this, 2-minute screencast video with steps and pause it and those kinds of things. So whether you want to know how to grade it, whether you want to know how to check their grades, regrade it, or for your students' use. How do they, so you can see what it looks like from the student's view. So those videos are here. And there are other YouTube videos. Canvas LMS YouTube channel has so many great videos of people, real educators using Canvas in real classrooms, and they're constantly showcasing them. So I highly recommend you go to Canvas LMS on YouTube and search for anything that you want to do. But these are here, and then if you wouldn't mind at some point, it doesn't have to be right now, the very last module is a session evaluation. So again, that's a Google form that I created, embedded it into Canvas so that you can create it or complete it right here within Canvas and let me know how this session went. So it's 10:20, my time's up, but I'll stick around for a couple minutes if anybody has any questions. I know that was fast and furious, and thank you so much for sticking with me. You're welcome. And again, the links for both are on the Sched page. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Any questions, you can throw them in the chat. Happy to answer them. You can also contact me through email, which is on the slide deck, which is in the course, which is on the Sched page. Good, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Dana, I have a question. Yesterday, I was able to access and make copies of everybody's things. What am I doing yesterday that I probably haven't done today? Because normally when I would access your guys' links, it would say make a copy and it would do it automatically. Today,
So I didn't put mine in as a copy, as a forced copy. I just put it in as the presentation itself. But if you would like your own copy, then go ahead and let me find the chat. All of my tools are, I'm going to stop share so I can get into the chat. If you want your own copy of the slide deck, then in the chat, there you go. It's just how the presenter included the links. And my link was a presentation only, but if you want your own copy, that one in the chat will give you your own copy.
Okay, this way I can refer back to it. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll let you have a stretch break before your 10:30 session.
I have a question. Do you ever have like parents use Canvas? I mean, I know they can't use Canvas, but like maybe somehow they're seeing the same information as their students somehow.
Yes, and like I said, I have 2 children in districts that use Canvas. And so what you would want to ask your district is if they are willing to set up Canvas observers. Because as a parent, I can log into Canvas with my parent login, and I can see, because I'm attached to my children, I can see all of their grades, feedback from the teacher, I can see the content. The only thing I can't see are actual discussions, and I can't submit anything for them, and that's for student data privacy. But I just put a link in the chat for the Canvas guides on what is the observer role. It's amazing because you can have, and I advocate for this all the time, have a module for your parents so they can log in with their observer role, and that module would just have resources, slide decks, forms, whatever you want them to have access to. The only thing they can't do is contribute to something inside of Canvas, so like a discussion or assignment or whatever. But if you embed a Google form, they can fill that out in Canvas, and again, you're going to access the data in your spreadsheet in Google, but it provides them a space for them to get, whether it's flyers or field trip signups or whatever, or the syllabus, all of that you can provide in Canvas in a parent module. It's great. Parents love it.
I'm sorry, how did you say that the parents can link in or log in with their students?
It's called an observer role. So they become an observer. So what happens is whether the district or the teacher, they generate unique codes per student.
Okay.
And then the parent logs into Canvas and with that unique code, and that will allow them to be able to log into Canvas and access their student stuff. So like when I come to, I'm going to come into a guest window and just go to our instance of Canvas. Because what you'll see up here in the corner, if you have this parent of a Canvas user, click here for an account, your parents would click there. They would fill out their information and put in that unique code that ties them to their student, so that when they log into Canvas, they're a view only. They don't have ability to edit or access anything that needs interaction, like submitting, but they can view everything that their student sees, their grades, their feedback, and this parent module that I'm talking about.
Oh, actually, when you share your screen, I'm still seeing the observer role screen.
Let me do this one. Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, so here's that
helpful.
screen where they fill out the
Okay.
information, but they access that from this link here. And then they would need that student pairing code that the district or the teacher would give them.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can I ask you a question really quick?
Sure.
You said that normally it's like a 3-hour course to be able to thoroughly get all the information that you gave today. Do you offer that separately, or is that not something that's offered?
Well, if you what I offer it to our district teachers, and I did it in June, so I don't have one on the books right now, but if you enroll in this course and work through it, you should be able to get everything that you need to get. And if you have questions, you can always message me, because you'll actually get, if you enroll in the course, you'll get an access to our VCOE instance of Canvas, and you'll have access to this inbox where you can email me questions, and I'm happy to, give you more resources. But if you work through this course here, then you should get most of the information, and you're doing it at your own pace. So, you should be able to do it.
Okay, I missed the first few minutes of the beginning of the course, so I apologize. If you
no, that's okay. So if you, on the slide deck, which is available on the SCED, there's a slide on the slide deck where you can actually enroll. So this one here. So if you click on the enroll link, that's going to just make you create a username and password so that you can access our Canvas, and then you'll be in the course and you can work through it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Nice to meet you.
You too.
All right, have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.